So in this bar chart widget, we have a heap of properties to customize our bar chart. First of all, let's select the vertical property and set that to false, and this will make it a horizontal chart. Okay, cool. So that's looking a bit closer to what the Wordle chart looks like. Now let's also remove the animation. We can remove the animation by using the animate property and setting that to false. Now let's remove the lines that are running vertically in the middle of the chart and the end of the chart. To do that, it's a little bit of code, but let's go through it. We need to do this on the primary measure axis, and then write charts.numeric access spec to customize this axis. We'll then select render spec, and we'll select grid line render spec. In here, we can select the line style property, and now we can use the line style spec class to customize the line. So here, let's update the color to transparent to basically make it disappear. To do that, we need to use the material palette, and we'll select transparent. Let's update that. Okay, so quite a bit of code, but we've now removed these lines on the chart, making it look a little bit cleaner. Let's also remove the numbers that are running here on the primary measure running along the bottom. So we can do this also in the grid line render spec. We can select label style, then write charts, and here we can select text style spec, color, and let's just copy this color in of transparent, update that. Okay, cool, so that text is now transparent. Finally, I'll remove the line on the domain axis, which is our input axis running from 1 to 6 here on the left. So we're basically going to do what we've done here, but this time we need to write domain axis, charts.select ordinal access spec, then we use the render spec property, charts.smalltick render spec. Here we can select the line style, and let's just copy across the line style spec class here. Paste that in here, update. So we now have the line disappearing. Let's also make these numbers a little bit bigger. So in the domain axis, I can use the label style property, text style spec, and we can select a font size, and let's put say 14. Okay, cool, and our font is a little bit bigger now. Okay, and let's add some const modifiers here. We can also see the row that the user guessed the word correctly on for the most recent game is a different color. So let's set that up too. To do that, I'm in the chart series file, and here in the series class, we have access to a color property that takes in a function. So again, we have access to the chart model and an index, and in here, we can write some logic to update the color. If model.currentGame. So if this is true, let's turn this green. So we need to return a color, and we need to return a material palette color. So I'll write charts.materialPalette.green, and then we need to add in shade default at the end, or else that won't work. Okay, so we now return green if this is true, if this row is the current game. Else, let's return gray. Let's update that. Okay, cool. So now the current game, the most recent game, was guessed on the first row, and that is now green, and then the second row is grey, and if we guess on any other rows, they would also be grey too. Let's also create a label on each of these bars to represent the score. To do that, I'm in the chart series file. In the series class, we can use the label accessor property. This takes in a function. And because we want to display the score, I write model.score. So for each bit of data that a model represents, we can display the score, and we just need to call toString because this function returns a string. Now to actually display this in the chart, we also need to go to our bar chart widget. Then I will select the bar renderer decorator property, and we can use the charts.barLabel decorator to decorate the labels. We'll use the label anchor property, and then charts.barLabel anchor class, and let's set this at the end. So the labels are at the end. Hot reload. Okay, cool, so our labels are now updated for our bars. Let's also add a title to this bar chart. So here we can use the behaviors property, which takes in a list of behaviors. We can just write charts.chart title, and then write in our title, which is guess distribution. Hot reload. Okay, cool, so we now have a title. So we want this to be able to work whether we're in dark mode or light mode. Now I'm not sure if there is a way to update our colors using our theme data like we have elsewhere in the app, but that's no problem. We can just do a small workaround by creating a variable that holds our color. So I'll wrap the bar chart in a consumer, and we'll listen to our theme provider. So the child needs to change to a builder. I'll import provider, change this to a block body. Now here in our provider, I'll create a variable. I'll name this color, and then I'll create an if statement. If notifier is dark, so if our theme provider tells us we're in dark mode, then we'll set color equal to charts.materialPalette.white. Else our color should be black. So here our consumer will notify us when the isDark property has changed in our theme provider, and if it is dark we want our color to be white, and the opposite when we're in light mode. Then down here we can access the color property and just pass in our variable color. We have an error here, and that's because this is a const, so let's remove that const keyword so this can update. And then in our bar label decorator, I am going to use the outside label style spec property, and here we can use the text style spec, and I'll pass in color. Okay, let's see how that works. Okay, cool. So we have white on our labels here. Let's update the theme to light theme. Okay, cool. And now we have dark font. I'm also going to tweak slightly the layout of the stats box. Firstly, the flex value for the chart, let's up that to 8. I'll give the flex value on the button to 2. And let's also make the whole stats box a little bit smaller. So up here we've got insets padding property. Instead of setting this by the raw pixel size, I'll do this proportionally. So first I'll get the width and height of the screen by using media query of context, size, returning this in a variable. Now for the padding on the width, I'll put 0.08 for the left and right. And for the height, I'll put 0.15. Okay, cool. So that's a little bit smaller. In fact, let's bring that 0.15 down to 0.12. Okay, so I think we're pretty much right where we want to be. Okay, cool. So there's our stats box. We've got our chart which updates. We've got our key stats showing, and we can also replay the game. Let's also update the settings so we can reset all these stats back to 0. So that's nice and easy to do. Let's go to our settings, and here we have prefs.remove our stats when we press reset. Let's also update this so we also remove the stats of the chart, and I'll also remove the row. So our row and charts prefs will be removed when we press reset. And here in our switch list tile, I've noticed that we do not have a title, so we'll use a text and write dark theme. Okay, cool. So now let's try the reset button. Statistics cleared. Let's check out our stats. Okay, cool. And now we've reset everything back to 0. In the next video, we'll apply some final touches to the app, iron out some small bugs, and use the ignore pointer widget.